Hello! Welcome to the 99th episode of Tomes and Tunes. I am your host, Ariellesilver. I am a singer-songwriter based in Los Angeles. I'm from the East Coast on the U.S., and I'm now living in Los Angeles, coming to you from my little she shed in my backyard. And 99 episodes. Honestly, I feel like I knew that cognitively, but this week, as I've been edging up to this particular episode, I've been getting really excited and frankly astounded that this has been going on for so long. Today's guest was a last minute kind of savior, swoop in, save the day, because my originally scheduled guest is on tour and she had some tour logistics, and I feel like that's such a sign of the times, like trying to juggle sort of the way things were before, touring in the three-dimensional real world with roads and Airbnbs and hotels and gigs and all of that stuff, and then also being in an internet stable place and doing these live streams. So that's where we are right now, and I'm so excited to bring back onto the show a former guest, Celia Chavez. Let's bring her on right now. Hi.
Hi, Arielle. How are you?
I am great, and I'm just so happy to see you. It's always so fun to see you, and thank you for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for calling me. You got me right in time before I started something else.
Yeah. Just
so like that was good timing.
Kind of kismet in that way, right?
Yes.
I'm also kind of excited to have you on the show. Besides the fact that you know me, I just adore you. But besides just being excited to have you here, I'm really, I don't know, it's like it's the last episode of the first season. I'm going to take a break for a while and go back through all the episodes and edit them, and I have some plans that are cooking in the background. But I love that you've been on the show before, and here you are at the end of this, season that's been going on now for 2+ years. I don't know, it's been such an interesting slice in history. Today is the beginning of the January 6th hearings, and it's from the time of COVID through this show has just kind of gone on, and you appeared, I don't remember what episode it was, but it was somewhere maybe around the 40s or 50s. It was somewhere in the middle, I think.
It was in the middle.
It was in the middle. You and I actually first met almost exactly a year ago, because we played a festival on the summer solstice.
That's right.
Is coming up.
Yes.
And that's
oh my gosh. Is that where we met? I guess
I think we had bumped into each other without knowing each other, maybe, through maybe the Far West Conference, maybe things like that, right? But the first time we were in three-dimensional space together was in
Topanga. And that perilous stage next to the road.
That's right. It felt like busking, which it wasn't necessarily, but in a way, I guess it sort of was, because we were by the road, and that was my first time performing in person since before everything shut down.
After 2020.
Was that your first time as well?
Yeah, that was our first time as well. And I know we were like, we only want to play outside, and we'd only done live streams for the whole, from March 2020 till then. Yeah. So that was it was an interesting day to be able to see people play in front of, actually see reactions again in person after so many months. Yeah.
As you're talking, I'm sort of putting myself back. I'm putting myself back there, like the way that it looked from where I was standing underneath the little tent canopy and looking out at the road and the shops beyond it, and then the mountain beyond it, trees. And I remember thinking as I was singing, like, wow, I am so in love with this moment. And to be able to see so far, like the year of live streaming before that, I was here in my shed, and pretty much as far as I can see is the walls of the shed, and then there's a window and I can see a little bit beyond there, but standing there in Topanga and looking out into space, I just realized, like, there's something about sound and music I was seeing like the sound waves moving through space in a different way than happens in here. What was your experience there when you were? I remember you sitting there on your cajon with Simon and the two of you singing your harmonies. I had never seen you guys perform before for Celia Chavez. And, and right. Just hearing harmonies and you on the cajon, it was so great. But what was it like from your position where you were?
Well, I remember kind of having a similar experience where like we're looking out, and again, we'd been in our apartment for many, many months, and like met so many of us. And to have that open sky and the mountains or the edges of the canyon coming up in front of us. Yeah. And just people and color and sunlight and music happening. I remember we sang for the first time this song that it's called Hallowed Ground. And it talks about, being mindful of the earth that we're walking on and who came before us. And there's a line in it about, the canyons and the sky and stuff. And I remember singing it and like my eyes following the line of the canyon up to the sky and just really getting chills that was the first time I was singing that song, was in this environment. Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting day, and we all did that for free, right? It was Make Music Topanga. Yeah. But it was amazing to see people, and just to see people, because we still didn't have a vaccine then, so I think we were still kind of like, do I hug you?
Did we not? Was it pre-vaccination? I think I had mine.
Oh, maybe no. You're right. Actually,
it was the first
just
one,
after.
It
was the first one. Yeah. Yeah. So it was still getting used to being in contact with people and that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
and that seems so long ago now.
It
seems
does.
So different. Like another
and it was
time.
Just a year ago, right? It was only a year ago, and I remember when I was singing, thinking, don't forget this feeling, because at some point this is going to just be common, right? But right in this moment, this is something so precious. Like, this is what we had missed in all that, the previous 15 months or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe this is a good time for a song. I'll start off with a song from you. Will you play a song?
Oh, from me? Well, that's a funny time to segue, because I'm going to play, because it's been a year since we did that, and I'm going to play a song called Anniversary. And this song has just been recorded, and I'm sorry, I'm getting all... This is not my usual studio setup. But I wrote this song in Joshua Tree. Just thinking of... Well, I'll just sing the song, and then you can ask me questions after.
Yeah,
since this is an interview show. Okay. Dress again in silver.
So you were about to say you wrote that in Joshua Tree. I heard the desert come up in there.
I did.
And
Yeah.
Panning for Gold and Anniversary. Tell me, where was the seed of that song?
Well, the morning, I think I started in Joshua Tree. It was basically an anniversary of the day that I had left many years before my marriage, my first marriage. And so it's just a reflection on how much had changed.
Yeah.
It was a different time. I allowed a lot of behavior that I don't allow anymore in my life, in that relationship. And I, there's always two sides to a story. So obviously I behaved differently. I was a lot younger. And there was a lot in my life, it was actually right when I had first met Simon. And so, and experiencing a different kind of relationship and a different way to be in a relationship. So, and it's funny because I hear it now and I'm like, oh, 365 dry days, it sounds like I got sober or something, which is not part of my story, with substances or anything. But it kind of feels that way, like you get into behavior that you need to break out of, and
those patterns, right?
You remember before, you remember what it was like, and you remember what's changed, and so that's kind of where the song came from.
Yeah, there's that line in it with what is that line? Bare hand, no ring, something like that. Something about
hand. With weathered hands, no trace of rings.
Yeah, that one.
Thanks for listening.
So, I'm curious about. So you said that you wrote it in Joshua Tree, and you just told us the inspiration for the song. But where are you? Do you remember where the song began precisely? Was it you strumming on the guitar, or was it a play of words, or was it the rhythm? What was the was it the melody? Where did it start? Do you remember?
Actually, you can hear it in the first line of the song.
The owl, the hooing.
Yeah,
and it actually wasn't that opening.
Thanks. And the recording, it's really lovely. My producer got a trumpet player to kind of shadow me on the melody, so it really sounds like an animal kind of, or just like a sound, But I remember it was actually not an owl; it was a dove.
Yeah, I'm always like, is that an owl or is that a mourning dove? Because
it was a mourning dove.
Both have that soft whoo sound.
Yeah, but it sounded like who, and then I think it just triggered something, and I don't know if that happens to you as a songwriter, that like you hear something and it just triggers a word or a phrase, and it just happens in your brain, and then you just kind of follow it, and
that's the seed that I'm so fascinated by. That like we have the stories like you with your ex-husband and this behavior thing, and all of that stuff. It's like we have all of that kind of swirling in our minds, but it's that moment that the mourning dove is calling, and there's something that there's an entry point to the song's creation, and it's always something like that.
Yeah, it's that trigger.
Yeah. What's that line again? That opening line?
It's who says the owl outside my window, and then who do you think you are? Where will you go? And and that line, the second line, is that I wanted to be a musician, and this person was saying, oh, what are you going to do? Like play in bars all the time and go live in an apartment? I owned a house at the time. Go live in an apartment? What are you going to do? I'm like,
No, you're like, I'm going to sing backup for Angry.
Well, I didn't know that at the time. But it's kind of like, haha, guess what? This is how, and that was not, I actually didn't have that gig when I wrote this song. This was just before that in 2014.
Yeah.
This is like a couple months before that. So I had no idea how the next few years would go in my career as a singer. But yeah, that's the beginning of the song. That's how it started.
You're making me think that, I hear those birds, those mourning doves outside my, at dawn. Pretty much there's have you watched The Hunger Games, or have you read those books?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you know how I think it's the second, maybe it's the third, I don't remember, maybe it's the second game, where it's set up like a clock, and at each hour something else happens. It made me aware of the fact that is the way that nature happens. And when I first am starting to leave sleep and come into consciousness, there's a certain there's a certain bird that's calling at that time, and I don't think it's the mourning doves, and I've wondered if it's the owls.
Oh.
And then around an hour later, the mourning doves start to do their, their cry, and then the crows and blackbirds start up. And I've just noticed that, like, there's a particular time, and of course my cat is very attuned to all this as well, because she starts to cry at a particular time as well. And but your song makes me realize that I listen to those birds every morning, and I have never thought to engage with them with the question that they're begging, that who do you think you are? Like, that's, a really thoughtful way to engage with that. It's a great question to sort of answer, I think, in the morning. Like, who are you today? What do you think you're doing? Like, where are you going, and why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And I guess maybe you were asking a lot of those questions at that time.
Yeah, I was. It was. I was kind of up in the air, as far as like.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, there was nothing really. Like I said, like a couple months later, I would be traveling all the time and working in a way that I had not worked in my music career before as a backup singer. It's funny now that looking back, then you put it that way. Yeah, it's funny that question came to me right then, and with the memory of that someone said I couldn't do, and I had done. It's not like I hadn't done anything up till that point, but that's kind of why the song happened. It was like, oh, who, and I remember the questions, and the low expectations that this person had of my future. And I was like, oh, but, I'm here with someone that I adore, who's kind. And I've been singing, and I've been writing, and I've recorded, and I've done all these things that I didn't think I could, I didn't know. I didn't know I could do them, and life just kind of helped me along.
Yeah, you're making me think about something that my ex had said to me when I wanted to. I had stopped touring. I was leaving music. Obviously, I came back to it, but I was leaving music at the time, and I wanted a camera. I had done a bit of photography when I was younger, and had somehow been the president of my photography club in college. Right, like I had done a little bit of photography, but maybe no one else would step up for that role, and somehow I was handed it. But years passed, and film photography had kind of dropped away, and digital photography had come up, and I didn't have a camera, and I was leaving the road. I was stopping touring. I was effectively quitting music, and I wanted a camera. And my ex said, "Why do you want a camera? You're a songwriter." And maybe that question was meant to remind me of the fact that I was a songwriter, but the effect that it had on me was it was kind of like a wet blanket on a fire. Like, I was burned out on songwriting, and I still felt like I was an artist, and I still wanted to look at the world and see it through a lens, which I guess I had previously done through music, but I still wanted to do that in some way. And and for me, that was what do you want a camera for? It was sort of like, be in this small box, this way that I have always seen you before. You're not allowed out of that box. And what you're talking about with that past relationship of yours reminds me of that feeling of being boxed in based on how the person previously knew you. And at some point in time, maybe it feels cozy to be in that box, like, oh, me, like the walls, the arms, I'm held. But at some point in time, you want to expand beyond that.
Yeah, that's funny that you're talking about the camera. We just started painting, and I've never painted before, and
Both of you started.
Well, Simon's painted before, and so he just came home with some easels and paints and canvases one day and said, "Hey, you want to paint?" And I was like, "Okay, I don't know how to do it or anything." But it's something about, and I get this because when I was in 2014 on this big tour, and I was I had a camera too. I had a camera. I actually befriended, and I just started taking pictures of backstage, behind the scenes. And I have a whole hard drive full of photos somewhere where I have all these like touring photos from all over the world. And I remember it keeps you in that part of your brain that's not logical. Do you know what I mean? It keeps you in that kind of creative space, even though it's not your songwriting or it's not even listening to music. There's still composition, and there's still rhythm, and there's still contrast, and arc, and everything.
Wow, you're using all the, as you're saying all these words, composition and arc and contrast. I know you're talking about. I mean, are you purposely talking about both songwriting and photography at the same time?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like those words,
and also painting. You know what I mean?
And interesting how those words apply across the arts.
Well, and I feel that, like, when I watch a good movie, that it's, or a comedy. Actually, it really surprised me. Recently, I was watching someone's comedy routine, and it was like a song. There were parts, there was rhythm, there was repetition, there was like a riff that they kept saying. And by the end, everybody said the riff with them at the end of their routine. I mean, all of these discipline, I don't know if it's disciplines, but yeah, areas of the arts, I feel like it doesn't matter which one you're doing, but you're in the moment, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you're accessing inspiration from somewhere that's not your conscious mind, hopefully, I guess. But yeah, I painted a freaking picture of some daffodils, and I love it. It's awesome. And we just got some more canvases. We're going to do some more.
Wow, I love that.
But it's kind of like I get in spots where I didn't write the whole pandemic. I don't know if I was too stressed out or what, but I really shut down creatively as far as songwriting.
The whole time, or just the first year, or
no, and just until recently. I've been writing with Simon again. I guess that's not fair. I wrote, but I didn't finish anything. I couldn't finish anything.
Yeah.
And man, I was painting, and it was just so freeing. It was just like there was no expectation about previous stuff that I had to like live up to, or but yeah, I think that's cool that you did photography and wanted to do something after feeling burnt out on music, because it's like you can't push songwriting, I don't think. I mean, maybe some people do, but I shouldn't say can't. That's for me. I can't push it. I don't get good results. I don't get songs that I connect with if I, it's different if it's assignment writing, or if it's like, commercial writing or something, or something like that, or assignment writing is different, but I don't know. I don't feel like beating myself, so that I keep working on a song that's not working, or that if I'm not getting inspiration, it's better just to go take a walk or paint a picture or something, or watch a movie.
Yeah, I agree with you that I don't know whether it's just, needing a break on a particular day. You're at your desk, you're trying to write, you need a break, you need something in contrast. For me, I always go for a walk, or something like that. But or if it's a bigger break that you need, 10 years, something like that. I do feel like there's something about moving from one art form to another art form. I think I'm just making this connection right now in this conversation with you that it's like when we are songwriters, we are dealing with that balance, that repetition, that resolution, that tension, and then resolution again, and the structure, the rhythm, the rhyme, all of that stuff. And I never thought about it before that, when we need to step away from music or songwriting for a while, a lot of us do engage in another art, and we are bringing those same elements to it. So we're not necessarily starting those other art forms from ground zero, even if the materials are foreign to us, even if we've never dealt with yellow ochre and paintbrushes, or canvas or something like that. It's, we are just grappling with the same issues in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, it kind of gives us that break that we need. We're sort of approaching the same problems in a way, just in a completely different way. And that feels refreshing when we come back to the original, original thing, music.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my experience.
Wow. Yeah, so...
Did you say that because... I was going to say, did you say 10-year break because I had a 10-year break from music? Did you
No, I said it because I did.
Oh, you did too? Okay, first, can we just talk about all this stuff that's happening today? First of all, we both did our hair in
Yeah, we
double
both have these little, although it's pretty dark on my screen, I don't know if you can see, but yeah, we both have our little,
We have our red lipstick. And,
oh, yeah.
And we both did
took
photography, and we took a 10-year break.
We took a 10-year break. We do our hair the same, and we both take 10-year breaks. Yeah, that 10-year break.
Yeah, what was your 10-year break?
What was it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think of it now as a
happened?
spirit journey. I think of it as a spirit journey. I didn't know that I was going to come back, and I think that that's the point of that's why that idea of spirit journey, I think it needs to be so long that you get so lost and turned around like a maze that you don't, when you enter, know that you're going to come back to where you started, essentially. But you have to be on it for so long that you're on a new continent in a way. I wasn't thinking about that at the beginning. I didn't know I was on a spirit journey. I just knew that I was burned out. I knew that I needed to, it wasn't feeling good to me. Music was not feeling good, and I knew that I needed to leave it, and I didn't know what I needed to leave it for. And so I tried a number of things, and some of those things stuck and some of those things didn't. And the ones that did stick, for me, yoga and literary writing, those are the things that ultimately kind of brought me back to music. And I didn't think that they were. I thought they were their own thing. And 9 years into my break, I guess, I don't know if that's precisely the time, but 9 years in, I still didn't know that I was going to come back to music. And I was certain that my whole world was just yoga and creative writing. And then in year 10, this other thing rose back in me and became, a major force. So, yeah. What about you?
Cool.
What was that?
Oh, that was my marriage. That was someone had convinced me that it wasn't a realistic path, and I believed them. So I was young. I believed them, but I came back because it wouldn't leave me alone. I still did music. I just did it in my second bedroom, and I didn't share the songs, and so it never left me. But when I decided I wanted to kind of try and find it again for real, that was when the marriage fell apart, because it was obviously not part of their plan for me or us. And but I gotta say, this is really funny that we're talking about this now, because about these departures and these spirit journeys, because mine was not necessarily a spirit journey. But I was just, are you aware of the whole Kate Bush phenomenon going on right now because of Stranger Things?
Yes.
And then also I just read, so that's decades later that she is having a resurgence. Yeah. And I was just reading an article this morning about the guy from Searching for Sugar Man, that he finally won his royalty battle.
I saw that headline today.
Mm-hmm. And so, today I've just been thinking about that, when
you don't know when the story ends. You think you know the end.
And this is the big, this is the big mistake, is for people to look at you in year 5 or look at me in year 8 and just think that I am an office worker and that I'm done. I've had huge gaps between tours and recordings and I think that I'm finally learning, that this is the big lie, that someone can give up music necessarily, or that it's done when you're a certain age, I mean, I'm so happy for Kate Bush, because she is not even been doing, she's not out there promoting herself. Quite the opposite. She's well known as a recluse, and yet, she made these beautiful records 40 years ago, right? It's like 40 some years ago. Almost 40 years ago.
Shane Alexander and I, so we're working on a new record together, and I know that you know Shane. So I was over at his studio yesterday, and at the end of our session, we were talking about Kate Bush, and and we were watching that, I think it was 1984 video on MTV of her and Peter Gabriel, and that was 1984.
She's so young.
Yeah,
she's so young when she freaking wrote Wuthering Heights and all that. She was like, what? She wasn't even 20.
Wow.
And and then she just like let it go and let it do its own thing and did her own thing.
There's a trust there, right? Like, we have to just trust that what we're doing right now is important and right, and let it go out into the world and not hold on to it so tightly. Not assume that we know the end of any of our songs. Like, the songs that we're putting out into the world, I have a friend who's recently released a song, and she expressed disappointment that it hadn't somehow gotten more traction right away. And, I was thinking, I know that disappointment. I can completely relate to that disappointment, but also, maybe we don't know the end of the story about that song. Maybe there's a Stranger Things, a version of that, story.
Yeah, who knows? Who freaking knows?
Down the road.
But anyway.
I want to say that when you were saying that your ex-husband did not want you to, either didn't want to allow you to do music or didn't allow you to hold that identity as a musician and a songwriter, you were still doing it in that second bedroom, and you were doing it in secret. And when you said that, I thought you were unfaithful, because your true marriage, your true soul's marriage was to music. And that relationship, even though you were technically lawfully married, perhaps,
in an earthly way, yes.
In an earthly, right, but people marry the wrong people all the time, or there's divorces. Like, there's some people and some things that you are truly married to on a soul spirit level, and then there are the other ones that you think you are, like your ego, there's something that believes that you are, which is why you took those vows, I imagine. But really, your true marriage was to music. And at some point in time, it became so obvious to you that you were having your true soul relationship with music, and this other relationship with this human being was the false one. And so you let that one go so that you could be in this true relationship. And then you found Simon, who allowed you to be in this true relationship with music, and also with the human being.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, both work well in relationship.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, I never thought of it that way. That's a really beautiful way to put it.
I think that we do things, sometimes we chastise ourselves, like, oh, I know I'm doing the wrong thing, but I just am I'm just doing this. But I sometimes think that we are sometimes doing the wrong thing, and we shouldn't be doing that. But other times we should look at the thing that we're doing, the behavior that we are, following, and maybe look at that as sometimes that is the right behavior. It's the other structures in our life that are the wrong things somehow. That's what you're making me think of right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
Hey, I know this was a last-minute addition for you to jump in on the show, and I'm so glad you're here. And you surprised me, because I was thinking, okay, it's Tomes and Tunes. This is the last episode of the first season, and if Celia, who is like awesomely here at the last minute, if she doesn't have a book, I forgive her. But you jumped on to Soundcheck, and you were like, oh, I got to find something to read. Yeah, you got a book. You're amazing. So tell me about it.
I do read. I often read more than one book at a time, and I make very little progress because I'm creeping on each one I'm forward. I'm a very nonlinear thinker and reader. But yeah, I have this book. It's on my Kindle, so I want to make sure so this is called, actually, the second book by this author, the author's named Mason Curry, Currey, and it's called Daily Rituals, Women at Work. He has a first book. Do you know these books?
No, but I didn't know which book you were going to choose because before the show went on, you were like, oh, maybe I'll read Octavia Butler. Maybe I'll do this one. And I was like, oh, what's she going to pick? And so this is the one that you picked. So I'm like,
this is the one I picked.
Cool.
So now I got to find my section again. But it's basically, he does research on creative people throughout history. And the first book was mostly male, I think, and just a few women. And so I think the people said, well, what about women's habits? Are they different than men's habits? Because women through history have other responsibilities, as we all know, in society. Yeah. And so anyway, so he did another book about just creative women and their creative habits. So each chapter is a different artist or scientist, just any creative people. And I'm going to read, do you want me to read this now, right? So we're talking about it? Okay. And I don't have reading glasses, so I'm going to be like this. Okay.
Oh, here, you can have mine.
But I've found Nina Simone, since we're musicians. I thought I'd read Nina Simone's.
Love her.
See how long, it's very short. Each chapter is just like a page or two. So, she was 70 when she died. She lived from 1933 to 2003. And it says, in her autobiography, I Put a Spell on You, Simone compared her best performances to a bullfight she once witnessed in Barcelona, a shocking display of violence that touched something deep in the audience and left them feeling transformed. On stage, Simone felt that she occupied a role similar to that of the toreador, and she wrote, people came to see me because they knew I was playing close to the edge, and one day I might fail.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah, Nina is...
Does that sound familiar?
Well, yeah, it also makes sense with Nina. Sorry, go on. That just hit me.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah. But getting audiences to experience something profound was also a matter of technique, and Simone honed her methods over years of touring. And she said, to cast the spell over an audience, I would start with a song to create a certain mood, which I carried into the next song, and then on through into the third, until I created a certain climax of feeling, and by then they would be hypnotized. To check, I'd stop and do nothing for a moment, and I'd hear absolute silence. I got them. It was always an uncanny moment. It was as if there was a power source somewhere that we all plugged into, and the bigger the audience, the easier it was, as if each person supplied a certain amount of the power. As I moved on from clubs into bigger halls, I learned to prepare myself thoroughly. I'd go to the empty hall in the afternoon and walk around to see where the people were sitting, how close they'd be to me at the front and how far away at the back, whether the seats got closer together or further apart, how big the stage was, how the lights were positioned, where the microphones were going to hit, everything. So by the time I got on stage, I knew exactly what I was doing.
Wow. Now, you've played some pretty big halls.
Yeah.
Have you done that? Do you?
Yeah, I have,
when you would show up
actually.
at those places, do you walk the perimeter and see the seating and stuff like that?
I do. I have actually. Gosh, I can remember this one, not when I was singing with Enrique Iglesias, but I was on a tour with a jazz artist named Melody Gardot, and she played this wonderful European jazz circuit, and the venues were really cool. There was this one old Roman amphitheater down in south of France, and I climbed all the way up to the top and looked down to see how small we were going to look, or how, and I just remember feeling oh man, it's going to be, what's it going to feel like from up here. So it's really funny. I hadn't read that in a little while, but and when I was singing in arenas, I had a cordless mic, so I could do my sound check and walk around the outside, walk out to the end of the floor, and take a look at the stage and try to imagine what it was like to be an audience member. But yeah, all spaces. Also, it's funny because I feel like even places have energy. She's talking about the bullfighting, and we did a whole tour of converted bull rings in Mexico, because they don't have bullfighting anymore in Mexico, I believe, but they have all the buildings still. And man, all of those venues, like, they just had this really weird vibe, I think, from all the, I attribute it to, now this is just my vibe, you know, but I definitely, like, I was uncomfortable in the mall, and I thought, oh man, you know, it's from all the animals that died terrorized, I feel like.
Wow.
You know, I just felt like I could feel this energy in all of those buildings. Anyway, so there's that too. That places, I've found that places have energy, you know, that kind of energy when you play them. But anyway, it's a little woo-woo, sorry. I went off on a tangent there.
No, but it's such an amazing fact of your personal history that you and I shared the stage at Ojai Underground Exchange in Ojai, California, which is at the time it was a 50-seater. I think he's getting plush seats in there, so I don't know if he's done that already, but I think
I didn't
knock
know
it down
that.
a couple of seats. But you know, very small compared with the venues that you're describing right now. What's the difference for you as a performer? Are you more comfortable in one? Are you more comfortable in the large stages because you've done so many, or what changes in your own body language, your own presentation, and your mind, your mental state?
It's a really good question. I'm way more nervous, and I've heard this from a lot of people, in a smaller venue where you can see everybody and you're really conscious of their reactions. Like, you can't really see faces in an arena after about 15 rows or something like that. But I understand what she's talking about, that like everybody, that thing about everybody is supplying a little bit of the energy. There's definitely, I feel like no matter where you're playing, there's always an exchange of energy of some sort. You know, we don't perform in a vacuum. We don't just stand up there and, you know, give a TED talk or something. You know, we are engaging with the audience.
Yeah, it's like there's a relationship.
And it's kind of like cyclical or circular. I feel like it flows. It's a flow between the audience and the performer or performers. I feel like it's hard for me to answer that question in some ways because I've only played large venues being a backup singer for someone else. So it hasn't been my music. And so I think that's part of the terror of the smaller venue that I associate with smaller venues, is that I'm on the line, my songs are on the line, and there's nothing between me and my guitar and the audience, you know, or me and my cajon in the audience when I play with Simon. You know, whereas there's a lot going on in an arena show. There's lights, there's more people, there's a band, there's another artist that all the attention is on. But it is fun because it's a little lighter to me because I'm not carrying as much of the load, and I'm not as afraid of what, you know, someone up in the rafters is saying about me and what I'm doing, you know, or if they are getting up and going to the snack bar. I can't tell. It's you know,
right.
I'm separated a little bit from that. But it is exhilarating. It is pretty exhilarating to hear and see what you can see from audience reaction in a large venue.
Yeah. What is something that you've learned from so you're a background vocalist for those tours. What is something that you learned from one of the artists that you worked with about being the front person, being the artist? You know,
I learned that I'm gonna speak mostly about Enrique. Well, actually, no, Enrique and Melody. They're very, very different artists, but they both were so good at drawing people in, and understanding that the audience wants to be there with you, and that they want to participate in the performance in some way, or just engage. I guess they want to be engaged. Melody had a really interesting way of singing. She sang very softly. She didn't sing loud, but man, people would lean in, you know, people would wait for the next thing to happen that she was going to do. She didn't play a lot of things the same from show to show, which was exciting for us as a band, but also exciting for the fans, for the audience. I will say also that I think what's really valuable, one thing that was really valuable for me as an artist, watching Enrique, is just the way that he respected his fans, and just really he really put his attention on them if they were in front of him. You know, he met a lot of people, and I had the opportunity to see him with a lot of fans, and you know, I will confess to feeling like a lot of pressure to respond to people like in Facebook Messenger or something, like feeling like there's pressure there, and then having kind of like freezing and like, what do I say, or like, or they just want something from me or something, you know, and almost having, you know, a reluctance to engage with them, when in fact it's like, you know, I learned I saw that, you know, his fans are devoted to him because he respects them, you know, and he talks to them in the moment. He might not be able to spend more than a few seconds with them, but he's really there with them.
You mean like after the show or during the show?
After the show or before. They would have VIP events before the show, where people buy the package, and so you can meet him, you know, go backstage and meet him, and that sort of thing. Or even if we were coming into the, you know, into this venue and there were people waiting in line or something like that, you know. So, and that was really cool to see, you know.
I have that jetliner coming over. You described what Melody would do in a way, in a similar way to what you just read about Nina Simone.
Yeah.
The way that she would, you know,
well, you know what,
put a spell on you.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of described that Melody would kind of do the same thing, and she would do it in a quiet way.
I learned from her the value of quiet, the value of dynamics, and that you didn't have to push, really the not pushing. That was some of the most difficult singing that I ever have done, because, you know, long, sustained, quiet notes with a lot of energy, very hard to do as a singer. And, you know, I should, you know, I just thought of something else too. Yeah. That, you know, there's this element of certain artists where they really aren't concerned about the outside world. Like they have their own universe. They have their own universe in their work, in the way that they live their lives. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's clear, but like I would see that in Melody, that she created her own persona. She didn't really worry about, you know, too much. I don't know. This is my impression, of course. I don't know what's inside her head, but I've sung with a few, you know, artists who were just so singular in their being. They weren't comparative or derivative at all, and like that really is hard for me. I guess it's hard for me to embrace that in my own artistry. You know, that I would have something unique. I've had a lot of people really encourage me to like be an artist, like live like an artist, and like talk about my vision for the record that we're in the studio doing, and give opinions, and like I don't know if it's just the leftover from being told that I couldn't, you know, but it's still a challenge for me to like say, oh, I just heard this in this mix, can you fix that? You know, and I do it. It probably doesn't look reluctant to, or you know, hesitant to other people because I do it, but it's really still, you know, I admire that in other artists, that they know what they sound like, and they embrace their songwriting vision. You know, they seek out things that fit, you know, that fit their vision, and are able to kind of amplify that for themselves.
Yeah,
It's hard for me.
It's funny the difference between how we see ourselves versus how other people see us, right? When you and I, so we met a year ago, about a year ago, minus a week, at the Make Music Topanga Festival, and then soon after that, we played a show together at the Ohio Underground Exchange, and there were it was a Women of Americana showcase that I was producing, and it was 4 of us on the stage. It was you, me, and Amanda Mosher and Pi Jacobs, and we were each doing an in the round where we'd each play a song and then pass it to the next person, each do a round.
Yeah.
So in a way, I love that setup because I mean, I just love sitting and listening to other people play their songs. Ooh, something in my eye there. But it's a challenge too to do a show like that because you can't step on stage and own the stage and create your you know, your container and your the arc of your show, because you're not the sole owner of that show or that set.
Right.
You're sharing it, and so you have control over the beginning of, you know, when the baton is passed to you until you pass the baton to the next person, and then
Right.
you know, it goes on. But you did something that night that was that we all decided to do. We decided to sing a Joni Mitchell song at the
Oh,
very end
yeah,
of the
yeah,
show.
that's right.
Real Good for Free. I had my clarinet and I played a little clarinet part, but you did the harmony. You did the vocal arrangements for all of us.
That's right.
And so what you're talking about this like singular vision or this I think what you're kind of talking about is like the particularness that we each have as an artist and your own particularness as an artist. And I remember when you came into the rehearsal with the charts and like you had sent them to us and we had this rehearsal to like, you know, all figure out the harmonies and everything. And I remember thinking how cool that, you know, we all theoretically talked about doing this thing, and then you sat down and you wrote the arrangement for it for us of the song, and it wasn't an arrangement that I would have written at all. Like it was a very very interesting arrangement. It was very much in alignment with how now I think of you in your as an artist in your voice. So
Oh, thanks.
yeah. So yeah, I know what you're saying though about how other people see us versus how we see ourselves on the inside looking out. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for me to share a little
Yes.
literary part.
Yes.
So for this 99th episode, I thought I would share the book that I'm reading, which is the same book that I've shared for the last couple of weeks, which is The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. And I'm really enjoying the book, but I'm not going to share it because it felt sort of weird to share a book that I'm only halfway through for this final episode. And instead I thought that I would share, because, you know, by the time the next season starts...
I haven't finished my book. That book I haven't finished. I'm like 2/3 of the way through it.
For this one, though, I thought I would share a Mary Oliver poem.
Oh, cool. I love Mary Oliver.
Yeah, I love Mary Oliver, and I teach, I teach yoga, and every Sunday morning in my yoga class, for years now, I've read a different Mary Oliver poem every Sunday morning. And there was one in particular that when I'm reading it to my class of yoga students, some of them are musicians, most of them are not. And this particular poem, always resonates with me as a songwriter, as a singer. So I was thinking about that today, and I thought, well, I'm going to bring it into this episode. This is called Daisies by Mary Oliver. It is possible, I suppose, that sometime we will learn everything there is to learn. What the world is, for example, and what it means. I think this as I am crossing from one field to another in summer, and the mockingbird is mocking me, as one who either knows enough already, or knows enough to be perfectly content not knowing. Song, being born of quest, he knows this. He must turn silent were he suddenly assaulted with answers. Instead, hear his wild, caustic, tender warbling ceaselessly unanswered. At my feet, the white-petaled daisies display the small suns of their centerpiece, their, if you don't mind my saying so, their hearts. Of course, I could be wrong. Perhaps their hearts are pale and narrow and hidden in the roots. What do I know? But this, it is heaven itself to take what is given, to see what is plain, what the sun lights up willingly, For example, I think this as I reach down, not to pick but merely to touch. The suitability of the field for the daisies, and the daisies for the field. So that's the poem, and I find it so comforting that, first of all, that last line, the suitability of the field for the daisies and the daisies for the field, and think about myself as a songwriter and just who I am, and sometimes this poem makes me feel like, oh, I'm perfectly right. Like, I am perfectly suited for this world, and this world is perfectly suited for me. Whereas other times I'm like, I'm flawed, the world is flawed, everything, it's like everything feels like grating. But this poem makes me feel like, no, maybe this is exactly right. Which I think is true. But the other line, of course, is the one, song being born of quest. He knows this. He must turn silent were he suddenly assaulted with answers. And I like that idea of song as quest. I think that's how I approach songwriting. I'm always trying to figure something out. Does that?
Yeah. Do you? I noticed when I was younger, there would be like a certain point. I don't know if I do this as much anymore, but like where I would stop listening to music.
Oh, like just turn it all off.
I would just because I wasn't hearing what I wanted to hear, and so then I would have to write myself a song, to feel the comfort or to feel, I don't know, whatever I was
like the thing that you need to hear.
Yeah, whatever I was yearning for in that moment, and yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question? Is that really?
You just reminded me of, there's a writer, and I'm not sure who said it. It might have been Maya Angelou, who said something to the effect of, I couldn't find the book I needed to read, so I wrote it, essentially. And is that kind of what you're saying? Like,
yeah, that I'm not finding it, but
the song that I
there's
need to
something
hear.
there's something that needs to be in the air, and so I have to gotta make it. I gotta paint my daffodils,
Paint your daffodils. It's so weird to me sometimes that music is just this. It's just these vibrations, There's just this, just vibrations moving through air, and some of it makes us feel good, and some of it feels necessary to express, and some of it doesn't.
That's fun. Well, this is funny because this comes up in my harmony teaching, in my harmony classes, because some.
Oh yeah, I need to take
some
some
people.
Note to self.
But I have students that come in and they sing, like I'll play something, and they don't sing the note that I'm playing, but they'll play one of the harmonies above it or below it, and the thing is that harmony, it's harmonies in the air. It's a vibrate. They're the vibrations in the air. Any pitch, right? That's their harmonics. So, I kind of don't want to say that's the wrong note, because it's not a wrong harmony.
Right, but they're not singing the root harmony. They're
not singing specifically what's in the chord that I'm playing, but they can hear more than that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? They hear beyond that. In the right, it's one of the vibrations. It's just not what I'm plunking out on the piano, but they hear it. So I have a really hard time telling them that I can't tell them that they're wrong. I can't do it because they hear more. So is that a problem? Maybe for a music theory teacher, but not for me. So anyway.
Well, maybe it's a good time for a song then. Do you want to play?
Are you playing a song?
I'm going to play a song at the very end.
At the very end,
and you're going to play a song.
Oh, what am I playing?
If I'm so lucky, you're going to play a song.
See, I thought I was only going to play one song.
Yeah.
What can I play in this tuning? I'll just do a... Okay, well, this is Heartbroken Joke. This is... Do you know the song, do you know Blossom Dearie, the jazz pianist and singer, Blossom Dearie?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I think you would dig her. She's, but she had a song called, I don't think she wrote it, but she had a song called I Walk a Little Faster. And it was kind of what we were talking about with the the spiritual 10-year breaks, you know, and Kate Bush and the guy in Sugar Man, you know, that it was about being brokenhearted, but maybe if I walk a little faster, my love's right around the corner. But I'll never meet them if I don't keep walking, you know, if I don't keep going. Yeah. So I love that sentiment. That's kind of this, kind of the same sentiment. I need a glass of water. Is it hot and dry where you are right now today?
You
Yesterday
mean right here in the San Fernando Valley? Yeah, yeah, it's pretty hot and dry here.
I figure if it's hot and dry here, my throat's just like,
yeah.
Then it's probably really, really very much so where you are. Okay, here we go. Wrote all these messages and tossed them in the ocean. Corked and bottled over, now the glass is broken. The ship will sail with all the holes in the bottom, and me getting all with just my dark paddle stroke. Is there something I can touch, or just mirages made of smoke? Is there such a thing as love, or only frogs that kiss and croak? Will I ever be somebody, something good, or just everybody's heart broke joke? Ooh. I hang my heart out like a carrot on a stick. Roll it in sugar like that must be the trick. I spit in circles till somebody's gotta shake me. A shovel wouldn't stick into my shiny silver spokes. Is there something I can touch, or just mirages made of smoke? Is there such a thing as love, or only half-hearted hope? Will I ever be somebody, something good, or just everybody's heart broke joke? I still make wishes when gravity takes meteorites. Still conditioned to sing love songs in the moonlight, but ain't insane to find us trying the same methods and forgetting we never made a wrong thing right. Is it asking way too much to last beyond the midnight stroke? Is my heart so out of touch it never feels the final glow? Will I ever be somebody, something good, or just everybody's heart broke joke? Not just everybody's heart broke joke.
Yeah. So is that a Celia Chavez song, or is that a Petty Chavez song?
No, that's my song. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Is that going on the new record that you're making?
It's on the last EP I
Okay.
did called Dare to Love. That is on streaming services everywhere.
Wherever you listen to
And,
fine music.
Wherever you listen to fine music.
I think
Okay.
that song is probably going to be at the top of the Tomes and Tunes playlist. I have a playlist that I made
Cool.
throughout this whole show of my guests, and because we did this last minute slip in of you here in the show, I didn't add you to the play, although you're on the playlist because you were on the show a
from
while
before.
back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, there was so much I liked from a craft standpoint there, and I could just go off and get completely nerdy, but I'll just ask you this question, and then I'll play a song. But for you know me, I'm interested in where the song started. So, where was the seed for that one? Just like the owl
I actually
or the
don't
morning dove?
remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I remember I wrote it after I moved to LA.
Huh.
Did I write it after? Jeez, you know what? I gotta say, I don't remember now. It's an older song. Oh, wow. Thank you, Mary. I take that as a huge compliment.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Isn't that funny? I actually don't. I think I was
It's
in
that
between
funny.
in between relationships, and I was, and I heard the Blossom Dairy song, and I'm like, oh, I want to write a song that's that thing that I want to hear, which is the don't lose hope, and you know, love is in the air somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for
Awesome.
asking.
Love
I'll have
that.
to dig through my journals or something. I don't know.
You
I don't
know,
remember.
that's one of the beauties of having journals. I have them all here. It's like, where was the beginning of that song? Oh yeah,
have
just
no
flip
idea.
back through, and it's like I find it. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
I should just make up a story.
Oh,
I mean, who
there you
know?
go.
No. Anyway.
I'm trying to think of a story right now. You saw Frog. You were thinking of Frog Prince.
Yes.
Because that's in that song.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was going to play today. But maybe it feels maybe right to play a love song. Actually, you know what? Yes, I am going to play this song because this is a song called "Worth Waiting For," and I have come to this side of the pandemic writing love songs, which is really nice. I know that you know, some people came to this side of the pandemic just sick of the person that they were quarantined with, not me. So I was thinking back to the first day that we met. It was in 2009. It was on a 4th of July party, and I decided, you know what, I've never written that in song. Let me just see what happens if I just described that. But I was also thinking about a writer that I used to love, still love, but I used to devour her, Jeanette Winterson. And she, I don't remember which book it was in. Maybe it was Gut Symmetries or The Passion, or might have been Written on the Body, where she says, I would love you as dog loves chase, or I would not love you at all. And I was thinking about that idea, like, you know, all these shrouds or layers of clothes that we put on top of people and say, wear this, be my piggy bank, be my security blanket, be my mother, be my, you know, and there are times when we ask all of that of the person that we love. But when I met Darby, I had sort of been thinking a lot about that idea, and I had told myself that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to find my great love, and I didn't want to deceive myself and look for, you know, all these other things that, you know, I can find a piggy bank. I can, you know, fine. If I don't have those things, I have to look for them elsewhere. But what I want in my love is my love, right? So so that's what I was thinking. You'll hear that in the chorus. But when I first played this song to a live audience in person, after music venues started opening back up and I started playing live shows, I realized it had this other feeling to me as well. The song is called Worth Waiting For, and it took on when I was performing it live, especially in the beginning. But it when I sang the line, "You are everything worth waiting for," I was also thinking about, like, standing on this stage and playing in this room with three-dimensional, real live people, and being able for all of us to kind of come together again in person after, you know, the isolation of the last bit of time. So this is Worth Waiting For. You stepped out in silhouette, barefoot, glowing, sounding out my name. Laughter and chatter, splash poolside, band began to play. And what can I say? And baby, you're not a fallback, a rebound, distraction, no flash in the pan. And baby, you're not a trinket, trophy, a token to show on my hand. of branches, a shadow dappled light of sun. It's gonna take my whole life to show you you are the one. You are the one. 'Cause baby, you're not a fallback, a rebound, distraction, no flash in the pan. And baby, you're not a trinket, a trophy, a token to show on my hand. You are not the bottom of a bottle, a charm bracelet bauble tangled with stars and a horse. You are not a sweet drink, a Ferris wheel fling. You are everything. Distraction, no flash in the pan. And baby, you're not a trinket, a trophy, a token to show on my hand. You are not the bottom of a bottle, a charm bracelet bauble tangled with stars and a horse. You are not a sweet drink, a Ferris wheel fling. You are everything. You are everything worth waiting for. Oh,
that's beautiful. That's really sweet. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that one. I'm pretty sure I've heard that song before.
Oh, you have?
But like, I'm just saying, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard that you do that.
It's very
before,
possible.
But I'm just like, you listen, I just heard it more. So, anyway, excuse me. You know I'm a walking waterworks, right? That I can watch an Avengers movie and start crying in the middle of it because one of the characters. This is typical.
One of the reasons I love you. Oh anyway. Man, and I will say that for those of you watching or listening who have never met Celia before, I just want to say your name, Celia, right? That's how it's pronounced.
Oh my gosh,
right?
That's right.
So,
Arielle.
Arielle, that's right.
Spell it out.
Celia, thank you so much for being on the show again. I think it's so great to chat with you and.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You asked me and you said it's episode number 99, and ever since you said that, the song 99 by Toto has been going through my head, and I'm like, can I play that on the show? I don't know. But anyway,
it's
congratulations
kind of
on your 99 episodes. That's not a small feat.
It's crazy because it just started as a whim at the beginning of COVID, just like, well, how do we talk with songwriters, at this time? And, every week for like the first 30, 40 weeks, I was like, it was sort of like the, what is that? The Dread Pirate Roberts in A Princess Bride. Everybody's like, I'll very likely kill you in the morning, but good night. And every week it was like, okay, good night, and I'll likely kill the show in the morning, but it just kept going on, and I was like, no, I can't stop the show now because I want to talk with that songwriter and that songwriter and that songwriter, and at some point I was like, you know what, it's like one of the highlights of my week. Why would I stop it, even though everything's opening up and so. Yeah.
No, well, congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
I know I've been grateful for the opportunity to see and hear I mean, songs and books. I mean,
yeah.
we can,
There's worse stuff
our
to
house.
talk about. Yeah, there's worse
So,
stuff than that.
yeah.
So before I let you go off to the rest of your day, you have an album that you're making right now. What is the best way for people to support you? How can people be great music fans for you and support the independent music that
Well,
you are
you know,
making?
Simon and I just started a Patreon.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I looked at your Patreon as
Oh.
for like inspiration on how to show up on that platform, because you have a great Patreon, and I love
thank
all
you.
the way you set it up. But and we're still figuring out what we're doing. But
Isn't it funny? You never know how you're going to be a model. Like, I know there are artists out there that I was looking at their Patreons to figure out how to do it for me, and that's surprising to me that you were looking at mine, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Why is that
'cause, like,
surprising?
that's how we learned how to do it, and
Yeah.
wow, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's Petty Chavez music. So it's encompassing my music, Simon's music, and our music as a duo. So it's
Yeah.
like Petty Chavez World, on Patreon.
And
then,
they can get to that from your website, I think, pettychavez.com, right?
Yes, pettychavezmusic.com.
Oh, pettychavezmusic.com.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
thanks,
put that in there.
Arielle.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm going to be I have a mailing list on my website. There's a mailing list forum, because I'm going to start talking about the record, the masters I got for the 5 songs this week. It's an EP, and I'm really excited. I haven't released anything
Wow.
solo for the whole time that I've been doing Petty Chavez. And I have a show down near San Diego. I got to see where it is, but it's a very similar format to what the Americana show that we did, where it's I think 3 songwriters in the round.
Is that San Diego
It's
writers room?
No, it's a
With
Songbirds.
Ben Grace? Oh, it's with
No.
it's with Ashley Norton.
It's Ashley.
Yeah, I've played her
Yeah, from
Songbirds
Withward.
before, and I'm
Is it cool?
I think you're doing that in just a week or 2, right?
I'm doing it in the beginning of July.
July. Okay, yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that on your schedule. I had a great time. I'm doing it again with her
Oh, good.
in September. Yeah, she's so great. She's a wonderful
She's
host,
great.
and
She's super talented. She gets stuff done.
She does get stuff done. She makes it
yeah.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, CeliaChavez.com, PettyChavezMusic.com, and the Patreon. That's ways to find me. I have a Bandcamp, with my records that are out. I believe are all up on my Bandcamp if you want to buy digital downloads. But that's it. That's all the usual places.
I love it. And I just want to say that, some people might be thinking, well, I can find their music for free on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. And for people who listen on those platforms, it is so great that you're listening to independent music on those platforms, and just hit that like button or subscribe or follow, heart the songs when you're on those platforms. Because, you're listening to the music, the money doesn't come to us, but what does help us, or, a little bit comes, I suppose, pennies. Maybe. But what does help us is as those subscribe and follow numbers rise, that's incredibly helpful for independent artists. And then if you want to support the artists in the way that you would have done 20 years ago, paid money that actually helps to support the making of the art. Because, when we're making records, we're paying the producer, we're paying the other musicians, we have a lot of costs that we incur. And then somehow the artist, the centerpiece, can get kind of lost in the shuffle. But if you want to support the arts and support what we're doing, Patreon, and
Bandcamp.
like you said, Bandcamp, and ordering those albums. I love it. Yeah, so good, Celia.
Thank you, Arielle.
Yeah.
Well, this is great as always. And what are you doing on your hiatus? I wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to be watching back 99 episodes. Actually, the first 7 episodes were on Instagram, so I can't do anything with those. So starting with episode 8, they were on, Facebook and YouTube. And so I'm going to be listening back to all the episodes and doing a little bit of editing just to lop off usually the beginning and the end, the messy intros, outros. And I'm going to actually, kind of get rid of the stock music that's been playing. The reason there's stock music at the beginning, it seems kind of ironic that a songwriter would have stock music. But the reason is because Facebook would have pulled the videos or muted them if I'd used even my own music.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just used stock music so that I could do the broadcasts. But then I'm going to lop that off, actually put some theme music for the show on, have a like a standard intro to the show instead of my goofy intro, which took me like, the first 65 episodes to more or less dial in, and it's whatever. And then also I'm going to watch back the episodes so that I can do a proper introduction for my artists for each episode.
Oh, cool.
And I'm looking for funding for it, and I want to have it distributed as an audio podcast on traditional audio platforms.
Totally could.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I'm looking for like brand endorsements, sponsorships. If it can be a mom and pop shop, it can be a major corporation, perhaps some funding or grants or anything like that. Just looking for something to help, offset the wallet costs, the immediate costs, and then also to offset the 400 hours that I've estimated it will take me to watch back and do the editing. So it's a lot, but
Wow.
that's why I need to take off, a little bit of time, because I realized, I don't know if I have a lot of time, but at least on Thursdays when this show usually goes live, if I could just take that, time period there and just reserve it and use it for Tomes and Tunes, then, just bit by bit, this will all get done.
Yes. Well, it's a great endeavor, and I sure appreciate it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you
for doing this
all
for all us songwriters.
Yeah, it's been, I've met so many people this way that I hadn't known before, or hadn't had a real conversation with, and, you and Simon both, it's like, we had some nice conversations at, before and after the show at Ojai, but to actually just sit down for an hour or so, and, hour and a half, and just talk about all this stuff, it's like, oh, that's a totally different conversation than we would have had.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, you stay where you are, and I'll see you in a proper goodbye in the green room. Green room.
Thank you, Arielle.
Yeah, thank you, Celia. And thank you all for listening. I'm so glad that you were able to watch. And 99 episodes, it has just been a passion project. And, at first when everything had shut down, there was all the time in the world for passion projects while we were waiting for, things to start back up and kind of shimmy their way into place. And now I guess it still is a passion project. It's kind of become a really important part of my life. So thank you for being part of it, for supporting it, for listening to the artists, and just tuning in. So continue to do the good work that you do out in the field, whatever your field is, and stay tuned for more news from Tomes and Tunes. I hope, if you're not on my mailing list, and if you're not following me as an artist, I hope that you will find that. Let me just put that banner back up so you can find my linktree /ariellesilver or ariellesilvermusic.com, and join my mailing list so you can be on the road with me, either in actuality or just following along with emails as I tour. So thank you. Take good care.